What's going on today, GLG? It's GLG James here today, and we got another deck profile. Today we're going to be doing my first plays red-purple law deck. I've really been enjoying it. I've been playing it majority of OPO5 format and 4.5 or 5.5. And I've been really enjoying it, seriously. It's been a great deck. It's really tough, but once you kind of get the hang of it, it's been awesome. I'm totally going to run it in OPO6 as well. So we'll get right into it. First, we'll start with the leader. If you don't know his ability, you can Dawn -3 in order to bottom deck at 3,000 power or less, and then you're able to play out a 4 cost or less from hand. So what's nice about it is, too, you don't have to bottom deck. You can also just play out of hand. So sometimes there's situations where your opponent doesn't have a 3,000 power or less character, and you want to play something out, you still can, which is awesome. So there's the leader. So as you can imagine, with Dawn -3, you need some sort of ramping, or else you're going to be going down, significantly in Dawn, right? So usually the happy medium in between, for the Dawn is going to be around 5 and 7 Dawn. You very rarely hit 10 Dawn. So to start off, you do run 3 of the Zoro Juros. He's just a great way of ramping Dawn. Usually I don't ever see this on curve, like going first is a great card to have, but usually it's just a counter in hand. But when he's able to go off, really, you're able to get his ability off, it really helps you out a ton because it gets it back as active as well. So it gets kind of weird in the sequencing of things because you want to be sure you're very efficient with your Dawn, but it's a really important card nonetheless. All right. Next, also for the ramping, we do run 3 Ein, right? So on play, you're able to get a Dawn rested. So once again, you can either lead ability this to play it out, or I like to play this out just, straight up for 4 Dawn and then use ability to get another form of ramping off. Even if you were to play this and then use lead ability to play this, it helps out because you're getting your plus, you're getting 2 Dawn out of the 3 that you already lost. So it kind of makes that loss a little bit less painful. Next, we have the 4 Beppos, right? Similarly to Ein. On play, you get that rested Dawn, but also too, you get the if you have less Dawn, when attacking, you get a rested Dawn as well. So sometimes you can get 2 Dawn with a single Beppo if the circumstances align for it. Like I mentioned though, it does get tough sometimes because you want to play this out for 4 Dawn and get a rested Dawn, but the way the game is set up, maybe usually you have the same amount of Dawn, or you have a little bit more of them, so his ability won't go off. So usually it's play Ein and then bring out the Beppo with lead ability or something along those lines, right? I do like the Beppo more than the Ein though, because he does have a 1k counter. Sometimes with the Ein, you kind of just have your hands really bricked up. Next, you got the best form of ramping in the deck, the Shachi and Penguin, right? So this card saves you in so much. You need this card early game. If you don't see it, you feel like you're really far behind. Not only does he get you back 2 Dawn when you're playing with lead ability, but he's also a 2k counter. So if you do say you see him early, whatever, and then you start seeing some of them later game, right, where you're sitting at higher Dawn counts, he's able to be a 2k counter, which comes up, which is huge. So, and if you don't know Shachi Penguin's ability, if you have 3 Dawn or less on play, you can ramp 2 Dawn. So you have to play it, when you're on 6 Dawn, 6 or less Dawn with lead ability, right? So you go 6 to 3 or 5 to 2, whatever it may be, and you get 2 Dawn back. So, like I said, you have to be very intentional with your Dawn usage with this deck, right? So then, since you have the ramping, right, you also need, so loss abilities kind of coincides, right? It's kind of similar to Sakazuki. You need to power down to the KO. This, you need the ramp and the power down, right? So for the power down section, we run 3 of the film laws. This card's great. I really like to play this out in the yellow matchup, right? Because all their trigger characters are going to be 5,000 power. So on play, he gives minus 2,000 power. So I'll like to swing 5 with lead, and then if they get any on turn 2, swing 5 with lead, and then if they get a character off of trigger, you can just play this out and bottom deck it instantly, which is awesome. Or it's also just great because you're actually establishing a big body on board versus, say, if you play an Otama, right, you're not really getting a good body on board that can swing and do some damage later on. So it's a great card. Some people don't run it. I think it's a really important and essential card for the reasons that I mentioned. Also, there's just a lot of 5,000 power characters, so it really puts it in range. A lot of the good essential staples and decks are 5,000 power, so you're always able to hit something off of it while still establishing a really strong body. Next, we have the Rush Zoro. It's a 4 of. You know, I'm really excited for EBO1 when that drops because you get the Killer Kid Rush card. Because this deck needs more Rush for sure. The Zoro's great because it's 3 Dawn, right? So a kind of a spicy play you can do, and it kind of helped me get game in one of my matches. Was, you know, you don't have to play out the 3 Dawn, right? So you can attach the 3 Dawn elsewhere, right, to your characters, and then you Dawn minus yourself, and then use the leftover active Dawn to swing for you know, bigger numbers, right? And sometimes it's harder for them to read that versus, you know, if you had 3 Dawn standing, right, very less Dawn efficient. So it's a really great card. You know, there's games where you think to yourself, I saw one more, you know, if I saw a Zoro, I would have won that game. So luckily with the kid, it'll kind of help. The Killer Kid, when that comes out in EBO1 for, you know, later on, right? It's going to really help make the deck it's just so much better. So, and then after that, we have our blockers. So we do run 4 of the kid, right? I always say, I feel like if you are able to play out 2 kids, right, it's very hard to lose that game, right? Because, you know, the ability to use lead ability and then get Dawn back active, right? It's like you're playing with essentially 2 extra Dawn every single time. So, and then you're able to use it as blockers. You know, maybe you could save them, maybe you can need them for the blocking effect. But it's just such a great card. You know, the more you see them, sometimes if you don't see it in a game, you're really far behind because just the ability to get Dawn back active, like I said, is just huge, right? No other card really does that for you. And then with that, we also play the 2 queens. So since we don't have the Reiju, right, it's very hard for us to have cards in hand, right? So luckily with the Reiju, it kind of helps things out. But for now, the queen is a great card to play. Just because, like I mentioned, you know, you get the cards in hand. Plus, you know, if you play out the kid and then you play out the queen, you get that Dawn that you minus back active. So it's even, you know, the synergy is definitely there, right? Plus, who doesn't love a 6K blocker? Right, harder for Sakazuki to really hit too as well, right? They'll have to extend for that. And then along with more blockers, we do run the 4 blocker laws, right? In the future, I'll probably cut this for when OPO 6 drops or in EBO 1 essentially. It's a great card, but I feel like people play around it so aggressively because it's so painful that if you just ask them when they have 6 cards in hand, how many cards are in your hand, they'll usually just lose that card anyway. So, but in those games like Uta, huge, very great of a card. I was able to actually win one of my matches because I was able to rip a 2K counter and a blocker Luffy. So it's a great card right now, especially in some of those matches that they just get kind of greedy with their hands, or if you catch them lacking, this is a great card to drop on them. So, and then we have the 2Ks. So we run 3 of the Sanjis. I love this card in the yellow matchup. So say they're gonna do Gadatsu, right? Because you know it's going to come, right? So all your 4 drops, because you're a 4 life leader and they're going to starve you out. So it helps save your 4 drops from getting hit by Gadatsu, right? It doesn't help out the Zoro Juro or the Zoros, unfortunately, but you know, you got to pick and choose what, you know, saved and what works. And then we also run 4 of the Otama. Great card. Obviously, it's a staple in red. You know, it's -2, which is great and has the synergy for our lead ability, so we can hit the 5,000 powers, as well as just being, you know, a staple 2K counter. Then next we get to the power down, right? So like I mentioned, we have the power down section, and we also have the ramping. So like I said, you really need to see both. So this card's, you know, essential for the deck, definitely, is the Gordon, right? It's so good that we're gonna rerunning 6 or 8 copies next set, right? Because it's just so powerful. 6,000 power characters are so difficult to get rid of, right? But the Gordon just puts everything in range. The Borsellino, the Gadatsu, you name it, right? This card is just so huge. It really helps us out. So we definitely got to run that at 4. Can't wait to run it at 6, maybe even 8. We'll see. But it's awesome. Then we have the events, right? I do run 2 Gamma Knife. I like it and I hate it at the same time, right? Because Dawn minusing, say you want a Dawn minus with this, and then you want a Dawn minus with lead ability, that's essentially 4 Dawn that you're losing, right? Obviously, hopefully you set yourself up with the kids or whatever, but losing 4 Dawn is so painful. It's so tough. So you really got to pick and choose when to use the Gamma Knife. Sometimes it's dead, but the best times, you know, to use it really are offensively, right? They have a rested big body. You just hit it with the Gamma Knife. Say they have the 8 drop cat, right? Bring that down to 3K. You swing at it with a 5-drop character. You know, you're able to save yourself Dom, but you're also able to still clear a big body. So it's a great card. You just gotta, like I said, I only got it at 2 because you gotta pick and choose, like I mentioned. So next set, probably not gonna run that. Just probably, you know, really bang on those Gordons. Another thing that I run is the 3 Fire Fist with the Rev Army Fire Fists. Once again, it's just great to power down. In the Sakazuki matchup, it's fantastic. It really hits that Rebecca, as well as sometimes if you're really, you know, pressed for powering down, right? If you do a Gordon or, you know, some other power down, you can help get that card to 0, and you can KO it with this Fire Fist, right? As long as you have 2 life or less. So it's a great card. I'm still too uncertain if I'm gonna run it next set. It's good, but sometimes, you know, it's kind of a setup sometimes, or it really needs to have specific circumstances where it really flourishes completely. So, and then the last 2 we have, well, and then we run the 1 Rad Beam. Great. I don't run it any more copies. You know, you're very Dawn efficient. It's nice when you have the kids out to get 1 Dawn extra back up, but other times it's like, you know, you're really maximizing your Dawn efficiency with your swings. So having 1 is nice, you know. Sometimes it comes up, sometimes, you know, when you need it, it's there. If it's not, nah, it's not the end of the world, right? Ideally, you set yourself up. A little bit of spice I like to consider is I run the Searcher event, right? So like I mentioned, the deck is very piece dependent, right? So you need the power down, and then you also need the ramp. Right, so this kind of helps you find either one of those, right? If you want to go aggro, you search out the Zoro, or you search out the maybe the Film Law, right? Or if you need the ramp because you have all the other pieces, you search out the Shachi Penguin, you search out the Beppo, you search out, you know, like I said, those are essentially the 2. Because right now you really only have 8, you know, 8. I run 11 rampers on play ramping. But, you know, you could search out those 8 that I have, the Beppo and then the Shachi Penguin with these. So it kind of just essentially makes additional copies is the way I like to think about it. Plus, turn 1, you know, as you can see here, you don't really have any plays, right? Turn 1, maybe you have the Gordon that you're going to play out. Maybe you have the Sanji that you're going to play out in the yellow matchup. But if not, it just kind of feels dead. So you might as well, you know, search out, go through your deck, find out the pieces that you need that turn. So, yeah, that's kind of what we got there. Next, we'll go over the kind of matchups that I saw for the turning. So for the matchups, right, I played 4 games, right? Yeah, 4. The first matchup was against a Green Uta. Green Uta can be scary because, you know, essentially they're putting out a lot of bodies, right? They play the Brook, they play, you know, then they play into the Uta or the Nami, or they go, right, they go the Luffy into Brook into Nami, or Luffy into Brook into Uta, whatever, right? It can get scary. But what you got to do early on, and was my game plan, is just remove the bodies early, right? When they play the Law, just remove right away if you have the ramp. And just kind of rinse and repeat that strategy, all while swinging 6s. Because I know they don't run that many 2Ks, well, they essentially can't, right? They run the Izo, and then they have the Chopper, right? They don't have the Sanji yet. So if you keep going 6s, they're going to have to burn through their 2Ks. And then once you kind of read it, hey, they're starting to use the 1Ks, that's when you kind of get more aggressive, right? So early on, I was doing my thing, right? Rinse and repeating the strategy that's been working. That usually works with like Green Uta. And I kind of noticed, I sent a kind of a 5K swing, I think it was, or a different kind of swing. And he took it when he definitely should have countered out, right, in this kind of situation. So I was kind of surprised by that. So I kind of went more aggressive of a route. Instead of going into lead ability into a ramp, I went to a Zoro, right, and then sent off another 6K swing. And then he took it again, and I was like, oh my gosh, like there's no way this guy doesn't have the counters right now. And that was his last, essentially his last life right there. So then I just sent out like a base 6K swing with lead, and then I ended up getting it because he had 2 Luffy's in hand, he had a 10-drop, he had a Eustace Kid, and then I think I'm Invincible. So just no counters at all. So it was kind of like it was quick, but you know, I know how scary the deck can be. So sure enough, you know, right after that I go right into another Green Uta. This time this guy saw the stuff he needed to see, right? But you know, like I said, the strategy of just rinse repeating, swinging 6, powering down. So what's nice too is when you power down a character, right? When you power down the Luffy, right? So you power down with the Fire Fist, right? Because it's minus 4,000 power. It's a 7,000 power character. So once you power that down, and it's at 3K, and you just start swinging regularly, usually, you know, sometimes, depending upon the player, they'll block out with it, right? Because they think, okay, it's just going to get removed anyway. So when that happens, you know, us red, purple law players are excited because then we're able to use lead ability on a different character, right? So I was able to do that kind of strategy on the person I was playing, and it ended up working out. So I got rid of 2 bodies. It was great. And then once again, swinging 6, swinging 6, swinging 6. You burn through their hand. What was also huge was early on, I played out the blocker law. Right, this card is huge in the Uta deck or in the Uta matchup because they're always pulling for it. I actually mulligan for it because I was like, I need this card, right? So I was able to find it on my mulligan, and then sure enough, right on 4, I played it, and then I was able to rip out a Luffy and a 2K counter. So right there, I'm feeling real comfortable, right? Because I'm thinking probably, you know, it's a little bit harder for him to do that 7 to 3 characters, right? 7 down for 3 characters, as well as having another 2K counter in hand, because I know they're, you know, it's already so fragile of the amounts they have, right? So, you know, rinse and repeat, was able to do that, and sure enough, I got it, right? So, luckily, you know, and then after that, play into the matchup that everybody loves to play against, Sakazuki, right? I think this deck, I wouldn't say it's favorable, but you can compete against the Sakazuki players, but, you know, like every other deck, you have to see your pieces, right? So, I think I was going second, luckily, so I was able to get them off curve, I believe. Actually, no, I went first, actually, now I remember. So then turn 2, I went Zoro Juro into lead ability. That brought me the Shachi Penguin, right? So with that, I'm able to get 2 bodies on board, and it forces them to have on turn 3, so they're 5 on turn. It forces them, or what is that? They're 4 on turn, right? They're not really able to drop Lucci, right? Obviously, because they have to power down everything. So what they'll do typically is they'll power down, and then they'll power down with lead ability, and then they will Hound Blaze you, right? The Hound Blaze at 3 costs or whatever, right? So luckily, they didn't have the Hound Blaze, right? So it forces them to have the Hound Blaze, right? They don't have it, they can't touch your board, really, right? So luckily, didn't have the Hound Blaze. So I'm excited, because not only am I keeping my characters on board, but I'm also going to get a ramp with Zoro Juro, right? So I'm excited. It was a huge play, right? It was a huge, you know, kind of momentum shift from there. Luckily, I was able to get the Zoro Juro out. Bottom deck the Burnu, and, you know, did everything I needed to do. It was down to the wire, though, because, you know, you could see all you needed to see. But that deck is just so powerful, so resilient. So what happened was, at the very end, I'm comfortable. I'm a full board, right? And I played out a Film Law and bottom deck something, right? But full board, right? Essentially, I think I have 2 blockers. One's a blocker Kid, one's a blocker Law. I have a Zoro Juro that's sideways. I have a Zoro that's sideways. And what happens? Board gone, though, right? Swings big, right? Don't have the counters in hand. Board's completely toast, right? And then he plays out. Yeah, so he didn't Rebecca Hina Lucci. I think he went Great Eruption, Lucci, right? Essentially, whatever. But he cleared my board, swung at everything. Everything's gone, right? That whole comfortability I have crumbled, right? So that happens, and then he plays a Borsellino on top of that. So I'm just like, oh, like the blocker Borsellino. So I'm like, oh my gosh. I have 2 swings. He's at 1 life. Luckily, I was able to put pressure on early, right? So I got him down to 1 life. He has kind of a small hand right here. So, you know, I have 1 card in hand. I'm like, man, what would make this so sweet is if I got a Gordon, right? I could have maybe still gone for it and got the game maybe, but I was like, a Gordon, like, surefire locks it out for me, right? Sure enough, you know, the heavens wanted me to win, and I got the Gordon. Sure enough, hit the Borsellino bottom deck, swung. I still had 2 life too, you know, so it wasn't like completely, I mean, it was still on the edge, but, you know, I think if I didn't win that turn, he would have for sure clapped back and got me. But, yeah, I was able to get the Gordon, bottom decked it, swung, the rest was history, right? So I'm going in to the finals, nervous as can be, shaking, you know, excited as ever, playing against one of my friends that are at the shop, and he's running Cat, right? And just historically, I've never cracked the code for playing against yellow, right? You know, it's in the finals, you know, and I'm kind of, you know, nervous as can be, you know, so I don't want to make any mistakes. So, turn, I'm going first too. So he got the dice roll, so he's going second. So I'm like, oh my gosh, just right now, it's not looking in my favor, right? But from there, you know, turn. So I was thinking of going just, you know, Zoro swinging and then lead swinging, right? First on a 3 down turn. But then I was like, you know what? Let's see what he can get off trigger because I have no Tama in hand. So I was like, if you can get a character trigger, like I'm up a creek, right? That's always the bane of me is character triggers, right? Because it's unaccounted for body, right? When you're doing the bottom decking. So sure enough, I swing, what is it? First life cracker. And I'm like, oh my goodness, thank God I saved my Dawn. So played on Otama, bottom deck that thing. Played out a Shachi Penguin, right? We're still good. We're down to 2 Dawn. Like what I hate to do is keep myself at a low Dawn count. You know, like it's just essentially super inefficient, right? You're playing, say if you played 4 Dawn. Some people like to play that way. Me personally, heck no. So they were there, right? That happened. And then, so I was able to remove that. He plays, you know, I think he swings 7 and then plays out a Parasparrow. So I'm like, crap. Like I don't want to swing into it. I don't want to KO it. Then he gets the Searcher. Then he gets pieces that he needs, right? The 10 mom, whatever. So I'm like, oh boy, like, do I really bottom deck this thing? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I play out another Otama, I believe, bottom deck it, you know, do some other shenanigans, get a character out with lead ability, you know, swing, right? And it's just back and forth, right? Essentially, at the entire game, I played out 3 Otamas just because I was so worried about. One of the other plays I did was I Gordoned and, was it Gordon and Otama? Yeah, Gordon and Otama a 7-drop Big Mom because he dropped that on 7 or whatever, or 8, whatever turn it was. And, you know, I was just like, hey, you know, he's going to play that big body, and then he's going to play the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and it's just going to snowball out of control from there. So I was like, even though I'm reaching for it, I have to, right? Losing a 2K and then losing, you know, Gordon essentially for something else. So played that out, was able to bottom deck it. It was going back and forth. So he healed off that, right? And he got 2 Big Moms, and then he also got an Amaru off of life. So he's essentially got 4 additional life. But Law is resilient too. You know, we swing, right? So sure enough, we're going in, we're swinging. And, you know, that last life that he had put on ended up being the Amaru, like I mentioned. And luckily, at the very end, we kind of did a spicy play, I like to consider. Right? So we did 6K. So we did 2 Dawn attached. So 1 Dawn attached to a swing, another Dawn attached to a swing. And then we did another Dawn attached to a swing for 3 6s, I believe, right? So then we used those 3 rested Dawn to bring out the Zoro, right? And then I believe we went 8-8 for the very end, right? And sure enough, it got us the game. So it's pretty crazy. You know, if I didn't win, if I didn't win that turn, he for sure would have beat me. So I had to go all in because he had the 2 10 moms, you know, nothing I have in my deck really. Maybe you know, if I really reached for it, maybe like a Gamma Knife and some, you know, some Fire Fist. But yeah, so luckily got that, was able to pull, you know, the winner card and be able to get that. And, you know, it was actually my first tournament win. So super exciting. But yeah, so essentially that was my entire experience, you know, for the deck. I love the deck, like I said. Gonna run an OPO6, gonna run an EBO1. Probably going to run an OPO7 just because I'm such a fan of it. So any big tournaments, if you see me, you know, you can ask me about the deck profiles and about Red Purple Law. So running for a while, like I said. So I think I've been getting a lot of experience. So yeah, for better or worse, you know, lots of learning, right? Because like I said, sequencing is so important. So yeah, very comfortable with it. But that's everything I have. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section. You know, and as always, you know the drill. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend, right? We're almost there at 200 subscribers, so might as well, right? What's stopping you? So, as always, guys, GLG out.